we'll switch over to an IISc Bangalore perspective and have Professor Amaresh Chakrabarti
How can I put this on?
to his presentation. And then to give a variety of the institutions that are represented.
Can I have the slides, please? Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just leave that. Just come in to do this call.
Yeah. Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Amaresh Chakrabarti. I'm a professor at the Center for Product Design and Manufacturing in Indian Institute. I had a little discussion earlier with one of my colleagues here, and when I introduced myself, that I'm from IISc, she asked, what is IISc? So I put in a few slides just to explain what IISc is for those who don't know. But before I do that, let me start with a story. The story is of Genesis space probe. This is a probe that was launched by NASA in August 2001 in order to collect particles from solar wind about 1.6 million kilometers from the Earth. And it was supposed to launch a parachute upon re-entry into Earth's atmosphere so that it doesn't get destroyed or disturbed, so that these precious solar particles could be collected relatively safely. 3 years down the line, it relaunched, it re-entered the Earth's surface, Earth's atmosphere, and oops, instead of opening the parachute, it just hit the ground. Why did it happen? Well, because as designed and as correctly manufactured according to the design, 2 of the switches that were supposed to be put in a certain way was put back to front. And so essentially it's a faulty design which costed, and as a result of that, the 2 switches which are supposed to operate as sensors to show deceleration to the object as it re-entered the atmosphere did not happen, and it never registered to open the parachute. Cost is $250 million US dollars. So design is complex and often can be very complex, and design is important. Okay, so what is IISc? Well, this is an aerial view of IISc. If you do a Google Earth of Bangalore, you will find a little forest in the middle of the city, and that's Indian Institute of Science. Very brief overview, it's one of the most prestigious research institutions in the country, 40 plus departments, 400 plus faculty members, 3,500 students, about 3,000 now in PhD and the rest masters. A substantial proportion of all research papers published from India in engineering, of course on science, are from IISc. It's the only engineering school in the country which is within the top 75 to 100 engineering schools in the world, according to Shanghai ranking this year. It is one of the 3 strategic universities with Boeing outside the US, the other 2 being Cambridge in the UK and Tsinghua in China. It's about 100 plus years old institution, and Center for Product Design and Manufacturing, CPDEEM, is one of the youngest. It's about 12 years old, which was established to pursue excellence in education, research, and industrial interaction in design and manufacturing. It has a Masters in Design program, which takes graduate engineers and architects and input, and train them in technical, aesthetic, and ergonomic aspects. And creation of working prototypes that are functional with aesthetic ergonomic appeal is a central element of this program. About 30% of the master's projects are patentable as technology patents. We also have a PhD and MSc program in design research. So one of the first formal PhD programs in design in India, working in the areas of creativity, collaboration, eco-design, safety, product lifecycle management, human factors, virtual reality, and so on. It's one of the biggest PhD programs in the country right now. Over 40 plus PhD students were pursuing PhD, and about 30 plus PhD students already graduated. We also do some product development practice through a joint venture with various companies. It's also chosen as one of the first design innovation center hubs by the MHRD in India, and also as one of the Indo-US centers for excellence in sustainable manufacturing. So when compared with some of the best design schools which are heavily research based, such as Cambridge, Delft, Stanford, and CMU, its publications also fare quite favorably. Okay, we have strong industry outreach programs with various companies and very strong academic links with Harvard, TU Delft, Cambridge, NTNU, Norway, and so on. We also run one of the biennial design research conferences in the country called ICOD, to which some of you have already presented papers. So what is design? I'll not get into that, so I'll just quickly go through the slide. I'm basically using what Herbert Simon described as design, which is a planning for changing current situations to preferred ones. Okay, so here is an example. People going 2 to 5 kilometers every day in groups to fetch water for themselves and also wash their clothes. Can we make a plan to make it changed? And there can be different desired situations, one of which may be a washing machine that is used using mechanical power and so on. Okay, need not be the best solution, but that's how design works. So design is a plan, and designing is how a design is developed. And with that, you can look at designs that can be for technical systems like a power plant, educational systems like a Montessori method, and legal systems and social systems and so on, of course. So what do we teach our budding designers or engineers in this particular case? So one of the work that we had done, and the reference is there up there, is to analyze the biography of 12 outstanding engineers to see whether there are common traits among them. And you see some of the usual suspects in the list. And what did we find? We found some 10 very important common traits among them, and I'm going to highlight 4 of those. One is they all had, and I think one of the previous speakers already touched upon some of them, very diverse interest and very high levels of curiosity. Another is that they had a very strong drive to solve problems, achieve goals. And the third one that I want to touch upon is learning. They learned all the time. How do we create our environment so that the learning is a continuous process? And the fourth is a strong element of knowledge. Okay, and this knowledge comes in both product knowledge and process knowledge. I'll explain in a moment. So these are the common working patterns in these individuals. They learned both in problem-driven and in curiosity-driven environments. So sometimes they were exploratory and sometimes they are problem-driven. They were learning from synthesis activities as well as analysis activities. So both of them were important for them. So each of them has its own merits in terms of pedagogy. How does it look within the Indian design teaching scenario if we take that as a metaphor? Largely, and I'm making some generalization here, the technical schools are focusing on technical functions, and primarily they are training the students in the analysis aspects, although there are some exceptions. Whereas the design schools primarily are training their students in synthesis aspects in non-technical functions, so functions that are the other way around. And therefore there are broad gaps in terms of how do we train our students to synthesize for technical functions and to analyze in a hard-nosed way about non-technical functions. And these are 2 areas where we are also strongly lacking in research. Research is a very important element of design. Many schools are already doing that. We need to do more of that. So where do we draw our knowledge in design? Well, it's already touched upon. Let me put it that design uses knowledge from society, business, technology, and ecology, and develops or integrates this knowledge to provide value to society to fulfill its needs. So we need to teach or expose our students to all these 4 kinds of knowledge. So here is my 10-point agenda in terms of what should we teach. Of course, we have already talked about it, design as an integrating theme, design thinking as the common approach. But we also need to expose our students into different types of designs. See, technology is also designed. It doesn't suddenly come from the earth. Okay? Product, of course, is designed, and we are all exposed to that, but services are designed. And most importantly, businesses are designed. So how do we expose them to all these 4 in a coherent, integrated manner? And because we are talking about in education and engineering institutions, technology should be taken as the central element. We ought to train our students to create functional designs that are aesthetic, ergonomic, and so on. And as Professor Ejirao said, there is also aesthetic in how you create technologies, how you create engineering designs. It's not just a monopoly of the artists. We need to, in the process, train them in the importance of teamwork, the importance of skills and prototyping, the importance of domain knowledge, of course, of society, technology, business, and so on, but also the importance of process knowledge, the importance of intuition, imagination, independent thinking, but also the importance of methodology, structured process, because you cannot imagine a Boeing 787 with 20 to 50,000 parts to be just designed like that without systematic thinking. And the importance of observation learning, and most importantly, research. So I'm just closing, so we want to have a we follow a strict structured design process while providing for the individual differences across students, strong technical orientation, immersion into user environment, emphasis on realizability, learning by doing, research into design. And for by design or by default, we have been largely working on products that meet social needs. So this is a very broad view of the curriculum. I'm just going to give you the headings. There are courses on tools and skills, methodology, engineering, management, practice, and most importantly, reflection. So here is one example of what I'm talking about. It's a handheld hair dryer with no heating element. Okay, so what you are doing here, you are using the effect of swirl and vortices in order to increase the mean free path of contact between hair and air. And the drying force is the difference between the vapor pressure in the air and the saturation pressure at the same temperature. So absolutely no heating required. And then you do the fluid mechanics of that so as to ensure that this happens in the best possible manner. And then you couch it in a usable and aesthetic looking. So the hair dryer is just moved around like that, and as a result, drying happens. This is another very simple example, a dialysis chair that goes through all the medical positions using just 2 actuators. That's at least one more than anything that is available right now in market anywhere in the world. Okay, so before I close, I just want to invite you to 2 conferences. One is the International Conference on Research into Design, ICOD 2015, 7th to 9th of January. It's a strong research-oriented conference, and followed by that, the 3rd International Conference on Design Creativity, 12th to 14th January 2015. And just to summarize, we are interested in moving from jugaad to structured innovation via immersion, realization, incubation, and reflection. And this is my last slide. This is a poem from Devara Dasimaya, and I think the closing point is that design requires both knowing and doing. If you don't have both, design doesn't quite become complete. So thank you very much for your attention.